Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the transit south node conjunct one's natal sun. Now, when we're talking about transits involving the south node, this could manifest in what we're going away from. And it's something that we may be leaving behind. Sometimes when the transit of the south node is involved, it may diminish or lessen something as well. It could be we're talking about as far as the transit south node conjoining one's natal sun. Now, this could be in some cases going away from life. Sadly, in some cases, the sun does rule life. Uh, the south node is the past. It's what we're going away from, leaving behind in some cases. The sun is our vitality and our energy. So it could be a time if you're having a transit conjunct your natal south node where your energy and vitality may be depleted and diminished. It's also in some cases about it could be going away from the biological father. It might be in some cases it could be the passing of one. When I had, I'm going to elaborate more on this in a little bit, but when I had this transit in 1973, it was like the beginning, I felt, of the departure of my father, sadly. Now, it's also, it could be about going away from what we're focusing at the time our attention on. I mean, I have this when I have this transit, it's in the zodiac sign Cancer, so that could manifest for me going away from the basic want of introversion, protection, safety, and security, home-related matters, and going more toward career-related matters, ambitions, professional life, because of course when you have this transit, the north node is opposing it. In that case, in my example, it would be in Capricorn. Now, it could also manifest in going away from things that are associated, with your ego. And some cases, it could actually be some the difficulty. It could be with the left or right eye, depending on gender. The sun does rule the left or the right eye, depending on gender. Some cases, it could be a situation where the eye may be removed, or there might be some, it might just be for some surgery on it. Doesn't mean it's going to be necessarily gone completely, but it could be something where there might be a surgical procedure on it when it might need to be removed in order to perform the surgery, as an example. And it could just be general difficulties with it. When you have this transit of the south node, it can often impact the astrological it's hitting, or astrological energy it's hitting to its detriment. Now, could also be going away from a dominant male figure in some cases. It could be some authority figure or somebody that might have been some mentor to you or played some instrumental role in your life scheme. It could be just going away from that particular person. Doesn't mean you'll never see that person again, but it could be for that period of time, at least when you have the transit where you might be taking a break. Some cases it could reflect the passing or departure of one, such as a death in some cases. Now, could also be in some cases where you might find where the spirit, it's the spirit, and the spirit is leaving. It could be where you don't have the spirit to do certain things, and in some cases, as we were talking about before, as far as the life, the energy, vitality, it could be going away from life, and the spirit is moving as well at that point in time. But if you lose say if this is in Sagittarius, you might lose a lot of that exuberant, expansive, enthusiastic energy associated with your spirit. Or if it's in Gemini, it could be that real vivacious type of animated, spirit that you might be taken out of you during that time that it hits your sun. So anyway, And also, it indicate it could be some reluctance in taking some action or difficulty taking action at the time. Remember, the sun could also be associated with the physical body. The ascendant is what is generally, is more strongly connected with the physical body in astrology, but the sun can play a role in that as well. And let's say, for example, you have this in Sagittarius. It could be like a hip, maybe some issue with the hip at the time, or a hip replacement, or or say if this is in Gemini, it might be some issues with the hands, the arms, the fingers. It could be carpal tunnel issues somebody may be going through if this is occurring in Gemini. And remember, South Node is what we're going away from. It. Say if this is in Pisces, sadly, it might be some issue like with the foot. In isolated cases, it might involve an amputation because it does reflect what we're going away from. Now, when talk about it, an example, when actress Alyssa Milano had COVID-19, I believe it was like early April, late March. She may have had it then, and during that period. The transit south node was at least a loose conjunction to her natal Sagittarius sun. Now, at least in early April, I believe it had made a loose conjunction to it. It might not have done that in March, but the thing about it is, it might have figuratively taken the life out of her. And she has a Sagittarius sun, so you could see that the exuberant, expansive, optimistic, that jovial energy was maybe had dissipated at that time to some degree. Now, another example, on or around September 28, 2020, there was a college basketball player who made news. His name was Chad Dorrell. He had died due to complications of COVID-19. I believe he had some kind of underlying condition. It might have been a neurological issue, but you may want to look that up to confirm that on the internet. But at that time, the transit south node in Sagittarius made at least a loose conjunction to his natal sun in Sagittarius, and that could reflect when the life and the spirit is leaving the person, and could be, given that he had his sun in Sagittarius, a life connected with athletics and sports. I know he played college basketball. It wouldn't surprise me if he may have been active in other sports in addition to that at the time. Now, I want to go to the example with my father. It was on May 4th, 1973, the transit south node in Cancer made the exact conjunction to my natal sun in Cancer. Now, at that time, my father did not pass away, but I would say around that time he may have likely started to dissipate out of my life more. It might have, which I would attribute to a lot of hospitalization, for example. He succumbed to Hodgkin's disease. He died in early February of 1974. But I would say it'd be safe to surmise this is May of 1973. You're talking 9 months prior to his death. At that time, he was likely gradually, the relationship with me and him was likely diminishing. Now, I was only, in May of 1973, I was only 2 years old. I was 2 months away from my third birthday. But the point is, it was an indicator that he was moving away from my life. And now, he wasn't a Cancer sun, moon, or ascendant, but he may have embodied some of those characteristics. He may have been somebody that was very nurturing and sympathetic, empathetic, somebody that actually was more maybe caring and might have been toward me than the typical sun in Gemini. He was a sun in Gemini, Virgo rising. Then I would say more than the typical sun in Gemini, sun, moon in Gemini, and Virgo ascendant person. But anyway. Now, another thing is when the transit, people got to keep in mind when the transit south node makes a conjunction to one's natal sun, the north node is, of course, making an opposition to it. See, what that's an indicator of is what you're going away from, what you're focusing on, what your basic wants. It may be negative attributes connected with your sun sign, your basic character. And you're moving toward the future. You're being directed toward the opposite energy of that. Now, let's take an example. Let's say somebody has the transit south node in Leo, making a conjunction to their Leo sun in the 11th house. but of course it would be opposing in that example. It would make an opposition to the transit of the North Node in Aquarius in the natal 5th house. Probably wonder, well, how would that manifest and pan out? Well, it could be that you're going away from, I mean, the basic character, you're going away from that Leo energy in 11, trying to stand out, shine, get glory, accolades, perhaps in group related matters, in clubs and organizations, being in the 11th house, and you're going away from those basic wants that need to shine in those need to shine. But when you have but what it could be, having the opposition, which would be the transit North Node in Aquarius in the 5th house, that could be about doing things that are group related, that could be with clubs and organizations, collective efforts that could be done. It could be even environmental things, as an example, that are done group related, where the group is getting recognition and attaining greater personal popularity as a group. That could be how that can manifest, and that could be an example of what one may be going. It's moving toward and going away from, again, the negative attributes, or just the general energy associated with that Sun in Leo 11th house position, as an example. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.